Welcome to the Three Rural White Guys podcast. We're live. We're on video. And we're back, baby. My name is Mike Heaton. I'm the co-host. This is Jacob Dodds. Hi,
I
Jacob.
am Jacob Dodds. How are you guys?
Hello.
Kellen Gracie.
Right here.
We're trying this live streaming thing. I think we can do it. We've been testing it for a little bit. We're ready to come back and get right in time for the upcoming midterm elections. We are the Three Rural White Guys. We are sitting in our garage drinking beer and talking politics. And we've been around for those of you who haven't seen us before, we've been around for about 5-10 years now. No, since COVID, basically.
It's definitely been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. Basically, since we saw January 6th happen and a bunch of people, destroyed our Capitol building, we decided to get on and be like most middle-aged white men our age, and start a podcast because I guess that's what you do with this age. That said, we are all about politics, and we're going to surprise you. Our name is Three Rural White Guys, and actually, fucking liberal. Can we cuss on Facebook?
I think so.
Okay.
You can.
Okay, we're cussing. Sorry, guys. It happens. We're out of Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and we've been talking politics. We focus on Iowa a lot, but it's as an example of what's happening across the nation. We definitely are well connected with a lot of political things going on across our state as well as our country, and we're excited to get into this. Before we do that, though, we have a little game we want to play. Jacob, you want to lead us in?
So this is a little segment we call Guess That Cabinet Member. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some phrases to describe a member of Donald Trump's cabinet. You guess who it is. So
Okay.
are you guys ready?
They have to be a cabinet member, not just like one of the many soap opera characters that are in the sphere of Trump, but like a cabinet member itself.
I mean,
Okay.
yes, but I think ultimately, to keep this going, there's a fun. We can extend it to
Yeah, what do we got?
in this case, though, this is a member of the cabinet, so that narrows it down for you a little bit, maybe perhaps. The first thing on the list, he looks like he gets mad when a restaurant has too many sauce options.
So it's not Donald Trump though himself.
No,
'Cause
no. Well, the only thing he would want is ketchup.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't know what anything else is. His face is permanently stuck between I don't trust this and I'd like to speak to the country's manager.
So he's like a Karen. Is it a he though? It's a he. So
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He is built like a guy who calls himself an athlete because he owns a grill.
That might be us too. So I mean, it's, just saying.
He is the human version of forwarding emails in all caps.
Ooh, this is starting to sound a little bit like Hegseth a little bit.
Every sentence sounds like it started as a Facebook comment under a news article.
Okay. Okay.
He laughs exactly once a year, and it's always at the wrong moment.
Well, that's not necessarily Hegseth then. Who else? Who do you think it is? You getting it?
No.
Okay. Keep going. What else you got? What else you got?
These hints are not good, Jacob.
This is pretty much every cabinet member at this point.
If you told me he's never enjoyed a single piece of music, I'd believe you.
Oh.
Oh, so he's like a really just
Serious, like not fun to be around kind of person.
It's like Hegseth would like enjoy heavy metal or something. Pretend he likes the Backstreet Boys.
The Backstreet Boys.
He would have been the kid in elementary school that reminded the teacher about homework. Now he's running for a agency.
Okay, actually, that's weird because I didn't know anybody was qualified, but it sounds like this guy actually does his job a little bit. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, he's been in. So another hint is he's served under other administrations.
Okay,
so he's not new to the role.
He actually has experience.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that he's unqualified for the role. He's just gone batshit far right.
Okay,
Crazy
actually, that narrows it down. I think Kellen knows who it is. Do you know who it is?
The last one I have for you is it would be basically the equivalent of Bill Belichick's twin joint politics.
Yeah, I definitely know who it is now.
I honestly I have no idea.
No, I think it's Mike Pompeo.
It is
that
Mike
right?
Pompeo, yes, or at least spiritually. It's always
Wait. Which one of those clues gave it away?
Well, he's one of the most serious ones. Well, the fact he's been in former cabinets before, that actually is the big one. Obviously, there's so few people that are qualified in Trump's cabinet to be on cabinet. He might be one of the only ones, and even then, that's a stretch.
Yeah,
I think the Bill Belichick is the one that got me. That actually makes
they
sense.
they kind of look a little bit
Yeah,
alike, and
yeah.
they have kind of the same demeanor. The at least before he Bill got hooked up with Jordan. What's her name? That's like what 26 or something.
Yeah, that tracks. Tracks.
I guess.
Nice. Well, hey, let's talk national politics for a second, guys. Like things are going down the shitter. Like it's bad out there. You talk to anyone across the country, the wallets are empty. People can't afford to pay their bills. All the things that Trump ran on are basically he has big L's on his forehead for. Like what the hell is going on? What's going on across the country? What's going on right now that's impacting such a massive swing in his favorability ratings as well as just in general the vibe of the United States as a whole.
Well, I mean, it's a self-inflicted wound. Most of what we're dealing with right now, which is really crazy about just his approval ratings, but it's pretty much at this point anyway killed the GOP's chances in the midterms. Has been the war with Iran, which has largely been completely unnecessary. All because he chose to tear up an agreement that the Obama administration secured for regarding nuclear proliferation, so that he could create his own, and we are now in a stalemate that has no end in sight.
So is that why we're in war? Is that why we're at war in Iran?
I still
Is
don't
the
know why
war-
we're at war in Iran. Like, has he explained that yet?
I mean, the story from the administration is they were 2 weeks away from having a nuclear bomb.
Right. Just like they were last year, and just like Netanyahu says they have been almost every year for the last however many years.
Well, they've been 2 weeks away from a bomb for like 50 years.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's like a healthcare plan for Trump as well. It's 2 weeks away. Everything's 2 weeks away. That's his go-to, and people for some reason believe him.
Well, it's just like everything else. I mean, the goalposts have constantly moved. We're seeing the same thing with Iran. I mean, how many times has he gone on Truth Social and set a deadline? Going so far as to say we're going to wipe your entire civilization off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And then at the last second, it's we've come to some agreement, which wasn't really an agreement. How many times has he announced that the Strait of Hormuz has been opened,
Yeah.
only for it to be shut down again? And now they're firing rounds into ships that are going through there. So
Right. So let's talk through that a little bit then. So there's one thing to say, like he's making mistakes. He's not representing us. Trump's embarrassing us as a nation, which I think is all very true, just on the very surface, even if you're not biased. I think we're seeing that with our own neighbors who traditionally may have voted for Trump, may have been Republican. We're hearing from our neighbors here in rural Iowa, at least, that they're embarrassed. His favorability rate is down, all that kind of stuff. But I think that drives opinion. It doesn't necessarily drive the polls. It doesn't drive votes. What drives votes, as we all know, is always the economy. The economy's stupid, right? So, like, what are we feeling right now here in rural Iowa, especially that is that people are talking about in terms of the economy and their wallets? What have you guys heard?
well, I mean, my direct that seems to impact everybody has been gas prices. I mean, I drive a pickup truck. It has a 22-gallon tank, and prior to the Iran war, prices were down at a point where it might cost me $50, $55 to fill my truck up, because gas was sitting where like 269 a gallon, somewhere in that vicinity. It was 397 today, and I just filled up the other day, and it was a little over $80.
Jesus.
So I mean, that's increased the cost of one tank of gas for me by $30. I fill up for roughly once a week, so 4 times a month. That's an extra $120 that's going out of my pocket every month that wasn't before this stupid war.
You know, I saw somebody in our comments section the other day, and he said something along the lines of, but he said something along the lines of, if you can't afford the gas price hikes, you have much bigger problems, right? And I agree, right?
Is
Of
this our
course.
buddy MC? Who are we talking about here? Is this
MC?
Mark?
No,
He's our troll. Our troll in residence right now on
We-
Through White Guys podcast page.
we have a lot of those.
Yes, we do. Just a couple.
It was not Mark, but it was maybe no. I think it was no. It was a different person. Anyway, here's my point about all this is I feel like a lot of the right wingers, a MAGA adjacent people who jump into our comments, they're very much in this like, things are great for me. What's wrong with you? You must be making poor choices in life.
Right.
Like, I, I
But
don't know how.
this is coming from the same people that when gas prices went up under Biden, they were running around putting stickers on the pumps
Right.
about I did this, you know. So I mean, I that's what I don't understand. Like I don't want to pay gas prices. I don't give a fuck who the president is.
Right.
I mean, is it killing me to pay what I'm paying for gas net right now? No. But that's
here's my point.
$120 that I could do something else with. I mean, I could go out to dinner. I could, buy cleats for my kids. I mean,
Right.
there's a million things I could do with that.
Here's my point, though. I just posted this on our page yesterday. 55% of Americans right now, according to Gallup polling, say that their financial situation is worsening right now.
Right.
It's
a
getting
trend.
worse.
Yeah.
So for people like that, that money matters.
Right. Well, and let's take it right out of the Republicans' mouth. To a certain extent, we have a state here in Iowa, a rural state, like a lot of our listeners come from across the country, where they have been doing Doge-like cuts for decades. In our case, for the last 10 years, as Republicans have controlled the state legislature as well as the governor's seat, and they have been cutting every single year, making a tax cut. They look at the budget, they balance to 80% of what the projected revenue is. This is a thing. This is a technique that the Republicans have used every year for the last 10 years in Iowa. And they budget to 80%. And then they have a surplus automatically because they've cut services.
Except this year.
We finally are at the end game, right? But they've cut these services and they're able to have a surplus, and then that justifies a tax cut. And they tax cut. For the last 10 years, 13 tax cuts in our state to the tune of $4.5 billion for the top 0.3% of tax-paying Iowans. Whereas we've, as average Iowans, have saved ourselves roughly $100 to $150 a month, which Trump just took away from us with gas prices by going to a needless war. So 10 years, 13 tax cuts that they proclaim was going to help everybody and put that extra $100 or so in our pockets. Gone, wiped out, with a stupid decision to go to war. And Republicans are saying when they justify the tax cuts that's important. That $150 is important. But now they're like, you can live off of losing, paying extra in gas right now. It's just bullshit. 13 years, he did it in 1 second. Made one decision that screwed us all over.
Well, and a lot of this could have been avoided. I'm no expert in these things, but I've seen some articles that indicate that the smarter thing to do, if this had actually been a truly strategic run, is that we would have filled the strategic reserve prior to attacking Iran.
Right.
Not that could have helped buffer off some of these spikes that we've seen in fuel prices.
Right. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
And the other thing is the situation going on with the strait right now doesn't just impact fuel. This has an impact on farmers who voted overwhelmingly for Trump 3 times in the cost of fertilizer, because many of the raw materials utilized for fertilizer are transported through that strait.
Right.
But it's not just farmers, right? All that has downstream impacts, right to the grocery store. So a farmer is spending way more to produce their goods. A freight company is spending way more to transport that farmer's goods. Then it goes to the grocery store, maybe at the distribution center, and then they have to transport those goods. So each point along that way, you have more cost, right?
Well,
combine that with the tariffs that were already in place.
Right. Which, case in point, just today I went and bought a new pair of shoes. My old shoes had worn out. Finally went over to Brown Shoe Fit here, and like a lot of small towns have Brown Shoe Fits. It's a locally owned deal. And I go in there about once every 2 or 3 years and get myself a new pair of shoes because I wear out my boots, wear out my shoes. Last time I buy the same damn shoe every time. And they're These are people who are just trying to keep their business open, so I'm not criticizing them at all in this context. $170 for a new pair of shoes for a pair of Merrell like hiking shoes, like not hiking boots, but like just their standard stuff, right? They last me a long time. They're good quality. $170. Last time I paid for the exact same shoe, like 2 years ago, was 120.
The the exact same shoe.
It's literally the same shoe. I didn't even try it on because I know what shoe fits me. It's a size 13 Merrell. That's what I wear, and I had him give it to me in the box, and I just walked out the store with it.
It's like a 40% increase.
Over 2 years. That's not even like high inflation. That's just like this kind of shit is screwing us over. In the same time, it wasn't there a report by the BBC that came out and said that before some of these announcements were made around the war, around different things, that there's a sharp spike in people shorting those stocks.
Yeah, every single time that he makes an announcement regarding a ceasefire or anything like that, that's what it ends up. It's been documented that there's huge stock trades that happen.
Right. Yeah, your mic's being a little weird, isn't it?
Very weird.
Yeah.
Sorry if it's gotten out there.
Good. Yeah, that's the part that's frustrating me, because you get people, like you said, online. They're like, well, you should be able to live off the $150 gas tank kind of shit, right? The reality is, though, they're making millions because they're insider trading, and he's making a mockery of the presidency. This whole thing is he's getting his family and friends to be able to invest ahead of time. Then he's making decisions, and they're making millions in a heartbeat as the stock market shifts based on those announcements. They've already preset their investments.
Do you guys remember when the Republican Party was really upset about waste, fraud, and abuse?
Oh yeah,
That was like last week.
Marionette Miller Meeks in her Walls Act.
Waste fraud, the use of American materials. Now we've got Trump, who seems to be far more interested in being an interior decorator than a president, who is buying African and Italian granite to replace tiles in the White House, and he's buying steel from Norway,
Right.
ballroom.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Well, I mean, it does if you think about it from his perspective. He's making a shitload of money. He doesn't give a shit about what's actually really going on with the rest of the world. He's just, him and his friends are just milking our system, our government, for every dime they can until he's out. And I think they see that as November, because they have made such a shit show of it all that there's a chance. There is a chance. It's not a huge chance, but that the Dems could take both the House and the Senate, and he could be ousted within weeks with impeachment.
And he knows that.
Yeah. And I think they're just trying to make the most of it all the way through until they get there. And it's just sad. And it's sad that there's anyone at this point actually defending this idiot. This isn't even an indictment on like regular Republicans and neighbors who voted for Trump. It's anyone at this point in the process that is still defending this guy and the shit show he has done has either been living under a rock or they're in a cult. There's no other way to put it.
Well, and I think it's put us in a very weak position as a country as well. He's been shitting on NATO since he took office,
Right.
and now he's been asking for everybody's help since we went into Iran, and everybody is like, "No, you're not launching your planes from our bases." And that's the important thing that I don't think a lot of people really understand, and quite frankly, I don't think that the Trump administration understands this. Is that we have one of the most mobile militaries in the world. Reason that we have that is because of NATO, because we have the ability to position troops in countries all the time, all around the world. And if we lose that ability to do that, and we become isolated, we're no longer the strongest military.
It's happening in real time right now. He's just destroying everything that has made us great, if you will. He sure as hell ain't making us great again. He's making us far worse, I think. So let's talk about how that impacts rural America. We talked a little bit about farming, costs on fuel, on fertilizers, the thin margins that our farmers are already dealing with. The question I have is what kind of impact is that going to have long term? Even if we do right the ship in November, even if we do finally get some power back in the state of Iowa, and other states in the governor's offices or state legislators, how much damage has been done? What are we talking here in terms of long-term health and wellness of our communities?
Well, here in Iowa, the damage that's been done to our education system and our healthcare system will take years to recover from, if it recovers at all. The other thing that I think was interesting was I actually just read a report today that there were 18 farm bankruptcies in Iowa in the first part of 2025, which was the highest number since 2020. Iowa ranks second. I believe North Carolina was first in the number of farm bankruptcies, and that was in the early part of 2025. And now we're looking at higher input costs with the fertilizer expenses and diesel prices being up as we go into planting season right now. Tariffs are going to affect the ability and cost of getting parts when things break down for replacing equipment. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens to farm bankruptcies with all of this going on right now.
Right.
That's going to have immediate impact right now that won't be helped by an election 6 months from now.
Right.
Didn't I see that Iowa, or maybe it was the Midwest, had a 70 or 75% higher bankruptcy rate this year that they did the year prior? Or
Yeah, that's the
am I
same.
making that up?
Yep, nope, that's the same report.
And sadly, suicide rates as well for farmers has gone through the roof.
And that doesn't just impact farms. I mean, many of the small communities throughout the state, we're talking those towns of, say less than 3, 4, or 5,000 people. They are what economy they have left is almost entirely reliant on agriculture.
Right.
And if we start losing the family farms around there, those businesses that support that go out with it.
So it's about the economy, stupid, right? And we've been seeing this sort of Republican takeover and just gutting of our economic system for the profit of a few, not only at the national level, but also at the state level, especially in rural communities. Real quick, Kellen, compressor's too high on both of our mics. That's why we're getting that little bit of a volume shift constantly. If you turn the compressor down, we should be a little better. But we're dealing with policies that have been put into place that get pushed into our legislatures in rural states that are run by Republicans, as well as from a national level right now, that are designed to benefit the wealthy, to benefit people who are lobbying for that money. And that's not like a conspiracy theory. That's a well-known. I used to be a lobbyist to start with, but you can see it happening in real time. And here in Iowa, they've been in charge for 10 years. And as I mentioned before, those tax cuts that they've done as they've just gutted our services has been to the tune of $4.5 billion to the smallest amount of the most wealthy Iowans total. And the impact that's had has been devastating not only to farmers, but we had a very leopards ate my face moment. For those of you who aren't aware of that, that's when people did something and then they are dealing with the consequences and they can't believe they actually have to deal with the consequences of their actions.
They thought the leopards would eat everybody else's face.
Right. And we had just a couple days ago here in Mount Pleasant, they closed a very near and dear to many people's hearts school. It's in Salem, Iowa. They just voted to make a closure on it because they literally don't have the funding. The school district here doesn't have the funding to maintain that school over the next couple of years without basically going upside down and having the state take over our school district. And we have Republicans saying it was mismanagement of funds by our school board. We have Republicans throwing every other excuse out as to why that school closed, or we had to close that school, completely ignoring the fact that they are literally the ones that choose how much to fund the schools every single year. And it's up. They're the only ones that technically could have saved the school, because if they didn't make this decision, they would have gone belly up, basically. So that said, it's having an impact across the board, not only just with farmers, but just everywhere. Have you seen anything like that, Callum? What are you hearing locally?
It's a combination, right? So we have in Iowa, we have kind of a two-pronged problem. We have declining enrollment across the board, and a lot of that has to do with population fleeing the state, right? And young folks, young families packing up and deciding not to stay here. And there are a lot of reasons why. We have skyrocketing cancer rates. We have legislature that doesn't want to fund schools. We have all sorts of deficiencies in terms of the programs that you should have at the state level that you can just go get to it. You can go to another state and get, right? And I think all of these things compound, right? We have all of these things happening at once in Iowa that aren't happening in other states. So
Well, I don't think that's quite true. I think it is happening in other states, but ones that are completely run by Republicans that have been to do the same methodology that they've done here. We're seeing the same thing in Missouri, seeing the same thing in Nebraska, seeing the same thing in South Dakota.
Any state that's done the vouchers is in the same. I mean, that was what everybody said was going to happen in Iowa. They pointed to those other states. This is what's going to happen in Iowa if we do this.
Right.
And it is.
Right.
And I think the thing that's frustrating locally in having those conversations with some of those people is the fact that this isn't isolated to Mount Pleasant. This is not misappropriation of funds as so many people are very quick to blame. I mean, the same night that decision was made, the Cedar Rapids School Board voted to close 6 elementary schools.
Right. And we heard from schools like Central Lee, like New London, that are smaller schools even still around us that have been struggling with the exact same issues, and they're looking at consolidation. We had a larger school in Southeast Iowa offer to consolidate with another school, and they sort of waved them off like, no, we're good. They're longtime rivals. But it's happening across the state. So it's not mismanagement by boards. It's there, Mike. There you go, Kellen. We're back. It's that lack of funding. It's absolute lack of funding, and for them to continue to say it's mismanagement of boards, and we have a local, our state representative tried to do that. He literally posted the only time he ever even talked about the issue at all in any post, any conversation, was the day of the vote, yesterday or 2 days ago, when they made the decision to take the vote. And he's like, thoughts and prayers, and remember that this is about enrollment and the mismanagement of funds. And it's like, well, when you continue to screw over our state and all our young people leave because you do all the shit you've been doing, of course enrollment's down. And you continue to defund us, and I believe it's 1.7% average increase every year, when inflation is average well over 2%. And before he was elected 10 years ago, Iowa increased their annual appropriations for programming, for teacher salaries, things like that, to an average of 4%, like 3.8%, because we actually took our schools seriously. And at the time, we were number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country had been for decades because of that. And suddenly this new regime comes in of all Republicans in every single seat, or in the House, the Senate, and the governor's seat, and they lowered down to 1.7, not even keeping up with inflation. That's a cut in order to make those tax cuts themselves.
Well, and the tax cuts are irrelevant. At the end of the day, that they can sit there and tout their tax cuts, but they're not really cutting taxes, because what ends up happening, if you pay attention to your tax statement that you get on your property taxes, is the county just increases the assessed value of your property.
Right. Which is what's happened, as we've seen, as we have property taxes skyrocketing. And now, literally right now, they're debating in the state legislature how to cap that. And so counties can't do it. So they're basically forcing every level of government, even though they're not in those governments. We have counties that have their own supervisors. They're forcing them to cut programs in order to save tax money for the wealthy.
And Iowa has always been very fiercely home rule, which is a sort of a public administration term for that government's best at the local level, right? Like, it's most efficient. It delivers the best services at the local level. We've always prided ourselves on having local control over so many things. And I will acknowledge that for some counties, and I know I've talked about this before, if you've listened to us before, there are some things that need to be done to be thought about differently, to find greater levels of efficiency on different things. But the reality of this is that county governments, especially, and to a certain degree city governments, they have things that they are required to provide. There are services that they are by law mandated to provide. And if they can't levy the taxes to pay for those services, then there hasn't been a very clear answer given on how are they supposed to do that? How are
But-
they supposed to provide those services?
All of this just smells like an attempt to avoid accountability.
Well, it's a shell
Mhm.
game. It's a shell game, is what it is. They're putting money under cups and moving them. They're moving them around.
Well, and then they're taking the one you're not watching, and they're pocketing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what's going on. The money doesn't come back. That $4.5 billion that they've taken out of our tax system, like that's gone in the pockets of just a small amount of people that didn't have to pay those taxes and their fair share of taxes. Like that's the reality. That stuff's going to the freaking Cayman Islands. That's not coming back to Iowa. That's not being invested in our state. We have one of the worst economies in the country now because of all this crap. And rural states across the country are dealing with that because the Republican Party has changed. They no longer represent a values of fiscal responsibility. They represent the pocketbooks of the ultra wealthy, and they're literally just introducing bills to the state house that they're being told to introduce by outside organizations
Yeah.
that got them elected.
Yeah, this whole property tax thing isn't isolated to Iowa. This is an Americans for Prosperity talking
100%.
point.
Yep.
And our current gubernatorial candidates on the GOP side have all, to a certain degree, floated the idea of that is definitely an AFP talking point. I mean, you can go search it. Of basically anybody who's over the age of 65 is exempt. If you own your home, you're exempt from paying property taxes.
Right.
That you shouldn't have to pay taxes on something that you own, which in theory sounds good. But if you're a rural county that has a disproportionate number of older people in it, which is a lot of the counties in Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of people not paying property taxes.
Right.
If the decision is made to shift that to let's add a local option sales tax, that works for certain things. But if we're going to shift all of our service expenses over to that, you kind of run into the same thing that you run into with tariffs. All of a sudden, the goods and products that you want to buy cost way too much money.
Right. It's
Well-
yeah. Go ahead, Kellen.
I just don't like the way the state legislators themselves are acting right now, right? And it's an obvious attempt to deflect blame from the fact that they're not responsible enough to fund schools.
Right.
And that to me is what it really comes down to. And our local rep, he goes up and he says, let's remember this is all about enrollment, right? But then in the same breath, yes, it is partly because of enrollment. But in the same breath, he says, and mismanagement of COVID funds.
Right.
And it doesn't get any more ridiculous than that because, well, at least here at home in our school district, we know for a fact that the funds that came in from COVID dollars, they're all slashed out of the budget now.
Right. It was 400,000 a year roughly, and we've slashed that out of the budget as of 3 weeks ago, as they expired, as we ended that grant.
And then some.
Yeah.
The 440 or whatever they were talking about from COVID dollars slashed out of the budget.
Right.
And now they're into additional cuts.
Right.
It's not we're not talking about the same pool of money.
No,
Right.
it was funny. It was money that was available that they said, okay, yep, we're going to use this as a band-aid, and maybe hopefully the legislature will pull their head out of their ass
Right.
and fix it, and they didn't.
So
That wasn't
why are they
mismanagement.
still talking about this? Why is this still a talking
Well,
point?
because it's just another example of let's face it, Kellen. It doesn't stop there. I mean, the same guy is out there going on about demons in the schools,
Right.
and that pornography is routinely shown in the schools, and anybody who is a parent knows that's bullshit.
I
mean,
was in a room with him like
That's
2
designed
weeks
to
ago.
scare
Well,
older voters that don't have kids in
Let me
school.
set that up. Let me set that up. Both of these, because this is right there. This is one of the most fantastic things of how, when you don't feel like you have a whole lot of power to change things, you can. And let's tell the story fully, Kellen, not just you were in a room with him. Let's talk about what Kellen did 2 weeks ago. I want to set it up real quick. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, a letter started circulating through the community, and we're talking rural. For those of our rural listeners, like you get this, like people share stuff. Everybody knows what the hell's going on with each other, right? There is no like anonymity in rural communities. A letter starts going around, and it basically says we're inviting. They're not Republicans, but conservative values and faith-based values group of people. We're going to invite teens and junior high kids.
Well, to be fair, they said their parents
and their parents too,
right,
but
yeah.
like they even said we want to prioritize the youth,
Right.
We want them there, right? Which was just creepy as hell right off the bat. That they're the ones that talk about grooming kids, and then they're creating an event. We're not Turning Point USA. We're not Republicans. We're not, but we have these guest speakers that are going to be there who are all Republican elected officials.
It also, I need to point out that letter riddled with grammatical and spelling.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was really funny actually. Like in a day of chat,
funny's not how I put it.
It's true, but
okay.
But in a day of AI, it takes one button click to just grammar proof and spelling proof your
right.
freaking like hello. But open call to the community. Come on in. We want young people. Come on in. We're gonna host you. We're gonna serve you food. We're gonna welcome you to our group. We know you have conservative values, and we're gonna help you find your foot here in our rural community and grow with us as you figure out your political identity.
They didn't say open call to the community. They said open call to students, staff, and parents of these
like-minded individuals.
Right.
It was, I believe, the language in the letter.
Yes. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for them.
No.
Because this thing circulated in the comment sections on Facebook and where this stuff went through. I mean, it was nasty. They went, why are you grooming our children? Why are you inviting kids? This is just the ickiest thing ever kind of stuff, right? But the day the event shows up, and Kellen, our friend right here, goes because why not? Wants to know what the hell they're doing with our kids and trying to do. So you show up, and what do you find, Kellen?
Well, I walked into the room. Well, before I even get there, they tried to sign me up for their mailing list.
Oh yeah,
not having that. But I walked into the room, and there were banquet tables, like 3 long banquet tables.
This is like a fancy thing.
Oh yeah, golden plates and silverware with tablecloths and a like buffet style brisket. I think maybe.
Okay.
It was tasty. It was very good. But there were 20 people in the room. I did the math. 20 people in the room. 12 of us were known members of the Henry County Democratic Party.
Wait, so over half of the room that showed up to attend this thing were Democrats?
Correct.
So 12 out of the 20. Who were the other 8?
12 out of the 20. 6 were speakers. 2 were organizers.
Wait, so nobody showed up from the community?
0 people showed up from the community. 12 members of the Henry County Democratic Party showed up.
Right.
No one else. We had a great meal and thanked them. But they got up and spent the first 5 or 10 minutes talking about how Democrats are immoral, conservatives are morally superior, and they started listing off stats as if they were facts about marriage rates and views on abortion and this, that, job titles for each liberals and conservatives, right? Like liberals tend to be these types of jobs, conservatives tend to be these types of jobs, and that's what makes us better, right? Like
seriously?
Yeah, 100%. And then
did they not know who they were talking to? Well, these are pre-written speeches.
Yes, pre-written speeches.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yep. So, but then they go on this rant about schools and teachers and education and how the education system is failing America, right? So this is their strategy. Their strategy was to put a bunch of kids in this room, tell them liberals and Democrats are all evil, immoral pieces of shit, whatever they were going for, and then teachers, schools, and educators are the root cause of all your problems. That was their strategy.
Holy shit!
I was having nothing. I was having none of it.
Was Pink Floyd The Wall playing in the background during this?
No, but we did have a hate preacher.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, he got up and said the fall of Rome was a cause was caused by liberal theology. I just
Wait, wait, what? I got a freaking degree in this shit. Hold on. There was liberal theology. That was like the 1700s. The fall of Rome was when?
it was 1800s. Mike.
1800s. My
That's
bad. My bad.
Enlightenment.
He
The
has a
Enlightenment was
PhD in
1700s.
this shit. He has a PhD.
The
Enlightenment
Enlightenment was in the
yes.
1700s.
But when was the fall of Rome?
Someone fact check me. 220 AD, something like this.
Right. So like a millennia and a half earlier or longer.
1500 years.
Yeah, but liberal theology is what crashed it.
The ironic thing about that is you can look what's going on with the Trump administration right now and find direct comparisons to the fall of Rome.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
But liberal theology, definitely why.
Right.
Well, that's the cause of all of our problems is just liberal woke shit.
And here's a funny thing about all that. Liberal theology created Protestantism. This hate preacher is a Protestant.
Yeah. But that form of Christianity is so bastardized at this point that it doesn't even resemble basic Christianity at this point. It's just a defense mechanism to justify, homophobia, hate towards women, and how to in gospel of prosperity shit. To your point from earlier,
Right.
We're getting comments about, well, you should be able to afford $150, like because you're in good with Christ, and therefore God's rewarding you with money.
Right.
Like that's the theology of today in a lot of these Christian churches, which is absolutely biblically inaccurate in every way, shape, and form. And the people don't recognize that.
And just to be clear, Mike, when you guys were talking about the birth of liberal theology, you're talking about Martin Luther
Essentially.
founded his
Yeah.
thesis on the door of the church.
Yeah, essentially.
Right, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a ways after Rome.
Yeah, a little bit. Just
Little
tad bit. Yeah, it's just, and that's who's running the party in here locally. So then this is, I think, our frustration is we're not. There's a lot of people that vote Republican in rural communities, and they do it because culturally, ego-wise, they are connected to that identity, and we have been in rural communities for 20, 30 years now since the last big flip in politics. I'll get corrected by Kellen in a second on when that happened, but I knew you were thinking it. But it's an identity thing. It's a part of this community. Therefore, I vote Republican thing, right? And so that's they come into the booth and they see the R next to the name. Oh, those are my people, and they check it, right? But that was when, they weren't great, but fiscal conservatives who had compassion, the George Bushes of the world, were in charge of the parties locally. They weren't this, where they have no clue what they're doing. They are organizing events to basically groom kids and tell them the opposition is a demon, which is literally what our state rep, he got up and spoke. Same guy, Jeff Shipley, got up and spoke, and all he talked about was demons and porn. Like, at what point is that not okay?
He talked about that for like 10 minutes.
Right. And that's not okay. We
Porn.
need
He talked
people,
about porn
yeah.
for 10 minutes.
Tell me about how you're going to fund fucking schools. Tell me how you're going to make sure that our roads stay so our roads don't have potholes in them, so our tractors don't break every 5 seconds going down the road. Tell me about how you're going to make sure we actually have access to hospitals and healthcare services. Tell me how all the stuff that you promised us with these tax cuts was going to bring a level of prosperity to Iowa they've never seen before, and why hasn't that happened? No, instead he's going to talk about a fictional fucking, what do you call those? Demon that is a made-up concept to justify all of our woes in porn, of course, because what people do on their phones in the bathroom and in bed is causing all your woes. That is it right there.
Not all your woes. The decline of America.
Decline of America. Yeah, that's the fucking cause. It has nothing to do with the greedy ass bastards who just pulled $4.5 billion out of our tax system and basically destroyed our fucking government services, including our schools. Nothing to do with that at all. It's porn and a fake spiritual thing that is, I don't know how do you describe a demon? What's a demon in 2026? What was he considering a demon?
I don't know what he considers a demon, but to me, a demon is a guy who starts a war and then tells all his buddy to bet on oil prices.
Yeah, that's evil. He bombs schools in Iran and kills girls. Yeah, that's evil.
Well, and circling back on that topic, we already went through this in America. And it's interesting because Trump has used the language that America's next gilded age.
Mm-hmm.
We instituted a lot of reforms because of how fucked our system was in the 1920s, the early 19th or the early 20th century. So that's where we're at again. We're back to oligarch government. You know, we're back to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk having a ridiculous amount of control over what happens within the government.
Inequality between the bottom part of society and the top part of society has never been worse than it is today. It's far worse than it was in the 1910s, 1920s before the Great Depression.
Right.
What do we do about that?
We vote. That's our only option right now. We have to vote. And if they rig that shit too, then we have to protest. And a lot of people have already skipped over to the protest part. Legitimately so.
We're watching news daily about redistricting efforts. DeSantis and his white boots down in Florida he's doing this whole redistricting effort, despite the state constitution saying you can't redistrict based on partisanship, right? But he's gonna try.
Right.
Well, and many of these states are doing it outside the bounds of what their constitution allows.
Right.
So they're not even following their own laws as it relates to that.
Right.
It's all a power grab. It's
voting's what we got.
Voting's what we got, and at the moment, and if voting doesn't work, then it's protests. Then it's economic shutdowns. It's like I think there's a group that's working for May Day, doing a Labor Day kind of situation where they shut down the economy for a day, and force the people that depend on that money to suffer.
Right.
It's an option. It does hurt other people, but it also gets attention, doesn't it? And if we have to get to that point, we'll get to it because we're a fucking American. We stand up for ourselves. We don't put up with a bunch of bully ass corporate, barons or oligarchs, I should say, which is pretty much what we have. He's modeling everything off of Russia at this point. We don't put up with that here in America. We never put up with that here in America.
55% of Americans are struggling right now, and 2/3 of Americans, if hit with a $500 bill right now, could not afford it without going into debt.
Right.
But we're going to build a fucking golden ball for the oligarchs?
Perfect. So, okay, let's go there for a second because this is really important. And I think we'll close with this because it's important that as we view this and see this, like there's a way to get rid of this. There's a way to change this. And right now they're doing the work for us to make this happen because Trump's approval rating is one of the worst in history of the presidency at this point.
He's at 32, 34% if you're being generous,
right.
Which is lower than where Nixon was at when he resigned.
After all the scandal came out, he's one of the worst ever too. So here's the problem. A lot of people are pissed, especially Democrats. And, one of the things with Three Real White Guys, and we get a lot of flack for this, but we don't put up with the bullshit from either side. That extremism crap, it's just, it doesn't work. Whether or not you're right or wrong on either side, it doesn't work, period, right? And we see that here, especially more so than you see it in cities and shit, that it doesn't work. But there's a lot of people that are really mad right now. They're mad about Iran. They're mad about Palestine. They're mad about all these things, and justifiably so, because they are absolute horrible things that have happened in some of those places.
Right.
But they're also walking around with this massive, legit judgment on Republicans with no sense or ability to forgive or even just put up with them as they come to the awareness that they fucked up. And that, more than anything else right now, is hurting us. It makes it a hell of a lot harder to get people to vote differently. And it doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter that they fucked up. It doesn't matter they screwed us over and you told them over and over again at Thanksgiving and Christmas that Trump was going to do this. That does not matter. What matters is they change their fucking vote. And they're not going to do that if you keep berating them and you keep treating them like shit. They live in news bubbles. We live in that news bubble. We see it all the fucking time. And yeah, they should know better. They're smart people, but they have been checked out. But they still vote. And we don't have to welcome them with open arms and make them Democrats, shit like that. But you can't sit there and berate them nonstop like they have been, like a lot of our far left leaning people have been doing, and expect anything to change.
Right.
Have you guys seen some of that online? Have you seen like what are some examples that you've seen of that happening?
Well, I think what I've seen locally is the big difference is yeah, there are those people who are just sort of generational Republicans that, you know, they couldn't necessarily articulate a policy position to you. They just have always been led to believe that, oh, Republicans are good for farmers, or they're good
Right.
for business, or they're good for whatever. And they are starting to realize that. And those people I can respect. It's the people that well, we see, you know, putting ourselves out in the public like we do, you know, with 32,000 followers on our Facebook page. It's the people that you know, come at us with the rhetoric that
Right.
that now they're. I mean, we all know it. We know that they're backed into a corner, but
Right.
they have made MAGA and Trump so much a part of their identity that they can't
Right.
let that go. And so, just like any cornered animal does, they're lashing out about it.
Right.
And that hateful rhetoric, I don't have any tolerance for.
Yeah. Understandable.
If you can't actually step back and acknowledge that, no, this decision that Trump made sucks, which he's had plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the encouraging thing that I've seen locally is there's a lot of local Republicans that are like, no, this is not what I voted for.
Right.
And no, we should be encouraging those. And I think that's one of the reasons, again, I know hyper local to Iowa, but I think that's why Rob Sand is doing so well, and why the right's so afraid of him is he has taken sort of an independent, middle of the road approach. He's not like openly putting himself out there as a Democrat.
Right.
He's taking very moderate stands on things. And, you know, there's some Dems that are pissed about that.
Right.
But do we want to have a Democratic governor, or do we want to have another? Because have you looked at the GOP field? I mean, they're all batshit. I mean, Randy Feenstra is the most sane of the bunch.
Well,
And that's saying
and
something.
and MAGA hates him.
Right.
well,
Right.
just locally, our elementary school just closed,
Close. Yeah.
and it's 100% because of enrollment and people fleeing the state
Right.
because of Republican
Hold on, real
policy.
quick. Enrollment's a thing, for sure. But
Right.
the state can fund that and make sure that the school still stays open.
That's where I was going.
Like the state can
SSA
still do
dollars.
that. Yeah, the
Right.
state can still fund it. Even if enrollment's gone down, they can still fund it to make sure the school stays open. They've chosen not to, even with lack of enrollment. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We keep bringing that up.
That's
and they
where I
keep
was
bringing
going,
it up.
Mike.
Oh,
That's
perfect,
exactly
perfect,
where I was
perfect.
going.
Yes.
Was enrollment is an issue, and young families are leaving, and there's a reason why.
Right.
But SSA dollars also play a role, and that's 100% because of Republican leadership
Right.
in the state legislature in Des Moines.
Well, and I'd be curious to know too, along that same line from a local perspective, is you know, the ESAs. You know, there were a lot of hypotheticals that were thrown out as we adopted those, having
Right.
the educational savings accounts, the vouchers, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And here locally, we had one Christian school. We've had them for 25 plus years. The ESA program created a schism,
Yeah.
and it resulted in a faction breaking off and starting their own school.
Yep.
Because of arguments over the tuition expenses. And I would be curious to know if that side effect has happened in other places,
Right.
because we all know that most of those private schools didn't keep their tuition at the rate they had kept it at to bring more students in. They increased
Jacked it
it.
up.
Of course I did. Let me tell you a difference between what's happening now and when I was a lobbyist for. I lobbied for the Catholic school system. Right. I literally would have been one of the people pushing through the ESAs 20 years ago, and the difference between then and now is then we lobbied as the Catholic Conference to raise all boats. We would go in and work with legislators on both sides and say, let's have a compromise. We get 4% for everything on an increase. Let's create a program that supports school choice while also putting a lot of money into public schools. And we did it hand in hand with them. They didn't like it because they didn't want to lose students, but it was positive for everybody because we knew we wanted to be one of the best education systems in the country. And we also knew that if you did have school choice, it actually attracted more families to Iowa, which improved our economy, which all those things, right? And there's issues there. Don't get me wrong. It's not clean as I'm saying, but raising all boats is a strategy. That's changed. 20 years later, not quite 20, That well, exactly 20 actually. That has changed to where it's one or the other. It's a competition between the two. And the reason that is goes back to that 80% budgeting strategy. They want to make cuts. They want to cut government funding of services, and education is one of the largest, if not the largest, expenditure by the state every single year.
And why do they want to do that, Mike?
So they can have a surplus to justify a tax cut.
For
The
wealthy.
super wealthy. And how they frame the taxes, how they do all that stuff is always to their benefit. And we've seen that. We have 10 years of data that proves that. It's not an opinion here, people.
It's not a conspiracy.
No. We have 10 years of data to show exactly what they did and why they did it and who benefited and who lost.
The rich people.
The rich people won. It's not even close.
Yeah,
Billions is a
and
huge
the
number.
The stuff that was built in there to benefit farmers didn't benefit
No.
small family farms. It benefited large corporate farms,
Every
most
time.
of which are not the owners of those aren't even in Iowa.
Right.
Some are foreign interests.
And watch as they deal with the property tax conversation right now, too. Those are the interests that are lobbying right now, trying to make sure that what they pass, and there is no counter argument because there's no Democrats in that discussion. They have such a minority on both sides that they can't do it because Republicans have somehow convinced Iowans that what they're doing is good for them.
Well, guys, I could go on about this for
Yeah, we got to wrap up.
hours
We're
and hours
going.
and hours, but we're up to an hour already. And I did want to get to a couple things before we cut our stream off tonight. First, I think every 10th comment we get on social media is that we are not rural, white, or guys. I've seen that comment twice today.
Really?
Yes.
So we're all white. We live here in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, which
Were they
is
expecting
considered
us
rural.
to have blue hair or something.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what the idea is there, but I see that comment like
Yeah.
every 10th comment.
It's just stupid.
Clearly that's not true. So
It's just
okay.
stupid.
Then there are a couple comments on our feed that I wanted.
I'm glad you're bringing this
Oh,
up.
what do you got?
because
What do
I
you
was
got?
gonna go there.
Wait, the current feed right here. We got it. There's
Yeah,
comments.
yeah. The live streaming got going.
Oh, got it.
So the first one I wanted to address. Cute 86 post, you pieces of shit.
Oh, fun. Oh yeah, you did that earlier, didn't you? Forgot
That
I
was
saw
me.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Which doesn't even fucking mean kill, by the way. 86 does not mean
No.
kill, right?
I-
Like that's been taken way out of context, which is dumb.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Exactly. I have not. Well, I have. Yes, I have. But yeah.
Have you, Jacob?
No, but I'm anybody who's seen the movie Roadhouse knows what 86 means. It means to throw your ass out.
Right.
do
Or
that-
that you're out of something.
Right.
Yeah.
You do that through an election.
Right.
86 them. Vote them out.
So cool comment.
What else we got? Any other comments?
Yeah, we got another one. Oh, from Jessica, making fun of your light beer, Jacob.
You know what?
What's up, Jessica?
I'm just happy that I can get Yingling Flight in Iowa now.
Hey, I like that.
And this is my summer drinking beer. So
The way to
care
go.
if you make fun of me or not.
We like Jessica anyway.
Most rural Iowa men drink Busch Light or Michelob Ultra anyway. So
True.
But
I
you're
mean,
not a man or rural.
Evidently.
I really think we're gonna have to start a TikTok channel, and I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to start showing your Yukon and my
truck?
my pickup truck, and your kind of
Don't
pickup
make
truck.
fun of my fucking truck. Damn it. It's a truck.
It is.
It's
It's a
Honda
Honda.
Ridgeline. It's
It's a Honda.
I'm older. You get more practical as you get older.
Or if there's people out there that don't think that Mount Pleasant's a real place or that it's rural, we could start on the square and show how long it takes to get to at the middle of a
Right.
cornfield.
Right. Which I have in my backyard, basically.
Yeah, you do.
I live in the fucking country.
Yeah,
I
you do.
don't get it. And your family owns a fucking farm and farms regularly. Like you go out there all the fucking time, Kellen. Like
Yeah, hog farmers.
But remember, Orange Rural is a
BMW
or
and a
a
cornfield.
Mercedes and a cornfield.
No, it was
Yeah.
a Benz.
Yeah,
Benz and a
Mercedes
Benz.
cornfield.
that was one of the very first episodes we got that from one of our local,
The meat
the
man.
Meat Man. It's been a long journey, guys. We've been here for a while in this episode, but also in doing this podcast.
Oh,
We
one
have
other
lots of
one.
stories.
The Republican legislature in North Carolina is doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
we're not suffering alone. Yeah.
It's happening all over the country. It's
I did see that their redistricting thing is pretty ridiculous out there. It's in direct violation of their state constitution. Yep.
All right, guys. This has been an episode of 3 Rural White Guys podcast. Well, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts as well now, on Facebook and YouTube. Maybe I don't know if we'll be on YouTube or not. I think we are. Doing video casts as well, and look for us more often now. We're going to be putting shows together all the way up to the election a lot more often. We're back, baby.
Yep. I
Let's
just
do
came
this.
a little aggressive with the music there. Sorry, but
There's music going right now?
yeah,
We can't hear any of
music
it.
going right now. No,
Awesome.
you can't. I can. You can't hear me.
Nice. Thank you, Chris Hausman, for giving us licensing rights. Facebook, we have the rights. We
Yes,
have
we do.
permission to use this damn song. It's an awesome song, by the way. Check out Chris Hausman and his latest albums, and we'll see you all next week.